Hey everybody, my name is James Wright and I'll be discussing about Thomas Jefferson and his views on slavery today. Second slide is his introduction. So I'll be talking about his background. So Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13th, 1743 in Shadwell, Virginia. He was the founding father who served as the third president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. He was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence. Following the American Revolution War, prior to becoming president in 1801, Jefferson was the nation's first U.S. Secretary of State under George Washington, who was the first president of the United States, and then the nation's second vice president under John Adams, who was the second president. Jefferson had a large impact on the United States, but he is also well known as for his complicated connections to slavery. Over this presentation, Jefferson's slavery will be analyzed. The second thing is his connections to slavery. So Thomas Jefferson, as a plantation owner, assigned various tasks to his slaves around the plantation. It was a lot of work such as planting, harvesting, and tending to livestock. Slaves were also assigned domestic duties which involved cooking, cleaning, and maintaining the household. He had over 600 through 800 slaves, human beings, throughout the course of his life. 400 people were enslaved at the Monticello. The other 100 through 200 people were held on bondage on Jefferson's other properties. At any given time, around at least 130 people were enslaved at the Monticello. Thomas Jefferson's relationship with slaves is a complex topic, but some may argue that he was conflicted as he owned slaves but also spoke out against slavery. Others criticize his actions and the fact that he did not free all his slaves during his lifetime. It's important to consider different perspectives when discussing the issue. Despite publicly commending the institution of slavery and acknowledging its wrongfulness morals, Thomas Jefferson never took significant actions toward emphasizing his own enslaved individuals. The complexity of Thomas Jefferson's views on slaves extends beyond his personal relationship. His beliefs. So I'll be talking about his beliefs and his influential on his beliefs on slavery. So as a prominent figure in American history, his impact on the beliefs and surrounding slavery cannot be overlooked. His upbringing in Virginia, a state heavily dependent on slave labor, influenced his views on slavery. Growing up in a society where the institution of slavery was deeply ingrained, Jefferson was exposed to its presence from an early age. However, it's important to note that despite this exposure, Jefferson's writings and personal correspondence reveal a complex evolving towards slavery. While he intensely believed that slavery was a necessary evil, he later questioned its morality and expressed his desire for gradual pacification. His actions as a slave owner and his failures to fully dismantle the institution during his presidency highlight the complexities and contradictions in Jefferson's belief. This contradiction between his professional ideals of liberty and equality and his continued involvement in slavery poses a significant challenge in interrupting his legacy. Next thing, I'll be talking about his treatment. Now, his treatment of his slaves was different compared to most American society. In the beginning of 1790s, Jefferson attempted to bring the enlightenment to his slaves' plantation by instituting a rational and human plan. It means that Jefferson wanted to apply enlightenment principles to improve the conditions of treatment of his slaves. He believed in the power of reason and sought and implement a more rational and humane approach to slavery. This includes teaching males trade skills such as carpenting and blacksmithing, and the women are different because they cooking and they is in the house doing laundry and cleaning the house. But the housing situation was a little different. The housing situation went from living from multi families to living with single families in different housing. The enslaved individuals were frequently subjected to physical punishment such as whipping or beating as means of control and discipline. They had no legal rights or protections and were considered property with no control over their own lives or destinies. Also, Jefferson had some individual personal relationships with the slaves, which occasionally provided them with certain privileges or opportunities for better treatment. The next thing is the example. An additionally example of the complex relationship between slavery and Thomas Jefferson was that he had children with at least one of his slaves, and her name was Sally Hemings. And the website is titled The Life of Sally Hemings. It explains the age of 14. Sally was 14 years old and was chosen by Thomas Jefferson to accompany his daughter to Paris as a servant. In Paris, Sally was free but also fell into a situation where she became pregnant with Thomas Jefferson's child. But this was a common practice of slave owners at the time, or of the time. But in the end, Sally Hemings had 6 children with Thomas Jefferson. 2 of them didn't survive, but 4 of them did. She did not negotiate better treatment for her and her children when they returned to Monticello. All 4 of her children that survived were freed by Thomas Jefferson. This relationship with Sally Hemings shows the complication of slavery and Thomas Jefferson, as he acted as a traditional slave owner and taking advantage of his position to have a relationship, but at the end, he freed them. The conclusion. Well, the conclusion, it is difficult to summarize this, but Thomas Jefferson's views on slavery, due to how complicated his relationship with the concept was, Jefferson outwardly commanded the idea, yet his actions did not back up his words. Regardless of whatever his personal opinion may have been, facts remain that Jefferson enslaved hundreds of people during his life, while also supporting slavery through legal and constitutional actions. Being that Jefferson ended up having children with one of his slaves, it created an additional layer to the already tangled relationship Jefferson had with slavery. Overall, Jefferson may have an interesting, different occasion to slavery that one might think. However, it is not, or was not, unique in the reality that Jefferson did not really do anything to improve slaves' lives or standing in the country. Here's all my sources and primary sources. Thank you for listening.